Tom, thank you for your question. There's another question here. I'm going to put it out there. It's very interesting. I think it was Woody Allen who once said, if you want to make God laugh, show him or her your plan. So what's the role or the importance or irrelevance of having a plan at this point in one's life? So this is obviously, a question around when everything around me seems so disastrous. How do we come up with a plan? Harry, what's your sense?
Yeah, this is one that I actually was thinking a lot about in this latest book. And in fact, I literally call it being planful and have spontaneity. And people say, well, wait a minute. No, it's one or the other. And boy, Harry, I don't like all this planning because then I'm locked in. I have no degrees of freedom. And anybody that's planful realizes it's one of those things that almost runs contrary, is that the more planful you are, the more flexibility you have. And for the younger people there, and Kelly, you're nodding, it's a little bit like I use that example when we're in school and you have this term paper, you got 2 weeks to do it. Well, if you're thinking about it, do a couple pages every day. But it was always, I had a roommate who literally the last night brings in 20 books at midnight with a cigar, and it's like, okay, I got 8 hours and I'm doing this. Well, the reality is if that night I came up to him and said, hey, guess what? I got some tickets to a movie. What do you think? Well, he can't go because he has no degrees of freedom. And I tease my students, and maybe I'll take, maybe somebody in this 163 people may have a comment, Orlando, in terms of helping me out, but I'm pretty planful, right? I pretty much know, what I'm going to do, the next 360 days. I kind of have that in that plan. Now, with that said, if Kelly or somebody calls me tomorrow and says, hey, I got 2 tickets for Bruce Springsteen in Atlanta Wednesday, I'll be there. Okay, so there's not a question I will be there. So this whole idea of you have a plan, but realize the plan that we set up at midnight tonight of what we're going to do tomorrow and the 10 things that we're going to do, by 9 o'clock the next morning, 2 of those don't even exist anymore. And there's 3 things that are now going to hit you. So you're planful, but you're also constantly iterating through because there's something else that has a higher priority. That's part of being planful and having spontaneity.
Tom, I have, that's awesome. And I'll add to that, again, going back to this idea of my own baggage of letting go. Having a plan today is less about that and more about directionality. Pick the next step that you need to make. Forget about the rest. Things will get figured out. So it's all about, are you directionally correct in the step that you need to take next? Because you're right, it's going to change no matter what. So that directionality is important from an intention, but from an execution, just worry about the next one in front of you, 3 steps ahead. A lot of things can happen.